final demonstration. Item we're making today will be a beautiful fall wreath. So I have these wreath forms. It's kind of nice. It's brass. It's welded at the top. It's got really kind of a little more character than your usual wreath form. So we'll start with this. And I like to make my fall wreaths feel a little bit contemporary by leaving a little bit of the wreath form visible because it's such a pretty wreath form. So what we're going to do is we're going to work in such a way that it's asymmetrical. It leaves this showing, and then we'll put a beautiful ribbon on the top to hang it with your door. So my first element, this is where my recently harvested olive comes in really handy. Because while it's fresh now, it's going to dry really beautifully to like a golden brown eventually, kind of a soft sage at first. So in addition to the olive, I also have bay leaf, which may be growing in your yard too. It's growing all over Northern California. It has wonderful fragrance, of course. You can use it in your cooking. I'm going to take the wreath form and start by laying the greenery alongside it. That's where my paddle wire comes in handy. So you start, just hold the wire against the form and just start wrapping. Just wrap and wrap. No shortage of wire. Just pull it tighter. With a few wraps, you'll have a nice tight beginning to your base. You've probably made wreaths before, but then I'm started. I'm going to constantly keep working from outside to in, always going the same direction. We do a lot of wreath demonstrations during the holidays. It's really fun. Maybe this year not as many, but normally we do. And it's really fun. The main idea, always wrap in the same direction and always move away. This is like the flowering, the bouquet side of the greenery. You're moving toward the stems. So you're always just containing the stems. Just getting a base here. All these things are fresh and they're going to dry. I can actually add some dried eucalyptus. So you may not be able to see my ceiling, but it's covered in flowers that we've been drying all summer. So I have some dried eucalyptus I'm going to add in. It's already dried. Adding some more olive. Try to keep things a little bit loose so it has some tenderliness coming out. Nice shape. Wrapping and wrapping. Just keep pulling it nice and taut. Not so tight that you break the wire, but nice and tight. Keep everything contained. Adding another little bouquet. So when you're making your clusters of the greenery to add, taking something like this, a branch, cutting some smaller pieces, like you're pruning in the fall. Again, stripping the foliage just like in our arrangement, making a nice cluster. So I've got a little bouquet, it's ready to go on there. Lay it alongside, continue wrapping. Nice and tight, it smells so good with the bay leaf getting crushed. Okay, so now we're basically at the bottom, and I'd like to bring in this hydrangea, which is going to dry beautifully. I'm going to lay that in like this, not quite all the way at the bottom. I like it to be a little bit asymmetrical. Lay it in, go over it a little. cushion it out with a little bit more of the bay and the olive and the eucalyptus. So I like to call this my fresh to dry wreath because it starts fresh and it dries just beautifully. Perfect for fall, harvest season, everything's ready to dry. Another thing I harvested this morning in my garden, some lavender. It's still on the plant, but it's basically dry. It's perfect for a wreath now and smells amazing. Place some of that lavender in there. Going over and over, holding it upside down. I'll show you upright. So that's really beautiful. It's a little bit asymmetrical. I'm going to add this filler flower called Caspia. It dries so perfectly. It starts like this, but it'll be dry in a few days. Just keeps a really beautiful shape. Wrapping. It's always the same thing, always wrapping in the same direction. You can see the back, nice and tight. So now, I know that I'm kind of at the bottom, and I want the other side to be a little bit shorter. I don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. So now I'm going to bind this in and then start from the other direction, but keeping the wire on. You never need to cut it off. Unless it really gets tangled or if you drop it, you can cut it off and start over, but you don't need to. Okay. Make another little bouquet. The olive and the bay. The bay is so pretty, it has little berries on it this time of year. Cluster coming from the other side. So it's upside down, but you can see what's happening here. I'm starting from the other side. I'll turn upside down in a second. Continuing to wrap in the same direction. With the wire, we're just starting on the other end of the wreath now. I think it's more fun to do asymmetrical wreaths that have a little bit of breathing room. A little bit more interesting and less time consuming than doing all the way around. It's just really pretty. Okay, so now we've got this bouquet climbing up there. I'm going to trim it a little. I don't like this big piece sitting out. And then I'm going to add in the lavender to this side. Lavender smells like heaven. You can't even imagine. I mean, you can't imagine, but it really smells wonderful. So I dropped my wire, which probably will have it to you as well. Just gonna rewind it, no big deal. Seems like a mess, but it's no big deal. I'm just gonna put it back on the paddle so you can hold it taut. Just gonna keep wrapping. So I laid the lavender in there, a little cluster. I want this side to be a little bit more contained than the other side, but not completely either. Piece. Bring in the Caspia again. It's delicate and pretty. This is such a nice shape right now. you want to wear gloves, if your hands are delicate, feel free. It's probably not a terrible idea with the wire, but my hands are used to this at this point. If you have a nice manicure, you probably want to wear gloves. Okay, continue to wind. We'll take a look. Okay, that's the way it'll be. Then I have this pretty pepperberry that I introduced before. It's actually just dried, so it's still got a little bit of freshness. It will stay exactly like this when it dries. Just get a little crunchier. Take a few stems of that. It's got a nice drape to it too. This. And I'm going to add it in. Again, laying the stems along the side, the same as before. So it's a fall wreath, but again, it's not oranges. It's just really pretty, like deep pinks, some pretty greens, some olives, some burgundies. Really pretty palette. Add a little more of the pepperberry to the other side. Bring that color across. So that's trailing down on both sides. It's upside down, I guess. But we'll see. A little more Caspia. Here. Caspia is also nice because it's flexible. When it dries, it doesn't crumble the way some dried filler flowers do. It just kind of stays put. So it's kind of a nice supportive force for the pepperberry too. Every turn you're pulling it taut. Okay. So now, these are the main elements that I want in my wreath. And I'm going to cover this area, the stems, with some Spanish moss. Really pretty, really fresh. I mean, it's fresh Spanish moss. I shouldn't say it's fresh, it's actually dried, but it's kind of a nice, bouncy little filler. So just lightly, we don't want to make it too compact. We're just attaching it on. And then when you're ready to tie off your wire, use your wire cutters, snip. And all you really need to do is just kind of tuck it back in. There's so much wire, it's not going to come open. We have this, and then your glue gun will come into play. So this is where we have fun glue gun, which is plugged in. See the straw flowers we've been drying that grew locally this summer. Really pretty pinks and ivory kind of colors. Just gonna add those in, glue them in on the Spanish moss. Just plug in that. Okay. But glue guns are wonderful. I'm sure you all know. I'm sure you're all crafty this way. They can create magic. When the straw flowers dry, the head stays beautiful and strong, keeps its color, but the stem sort of falls apart. So that's why we need to glue them on. Otherwise they fall. Okay. And some people might put like a little mushroom bird or some other cute little, like a little ribbon, whatever, in this bottom spot where everything is joining. I like to put the straw flowers on there, just like adds a little sparkle. Covers up any little bits of wire that you can see too. Takes your eye off that, the inner workings. this. A couple more straw flowers up here, but I'm liking what it's doing. I like that it's a little bit shorter here, a little bit more of a swoosh here. A couple more straw flowers, I think. A couple of darker ones. Another light one. Trying to keep them not from being lined all up perfectly that way. Again, letting the eye move in and out like a sculpture. Always the same theory. All these arrangements have the same theory. Simple design. Okay. Pretty good about that. Some little tiny ones. That's really pretty. One more. Oh yeah, that's fun. Okay. And so another trick of the trade, we've got these like spider webs that come off the glue gun. You take your blow dryer and you just blow on it and they will melt and go away. So the last thing I'm going to do is put a really pretty velvet ribbon up here. Looks really vintage. Pretty velvet, vintage looking ribbon. Tie it on the top. And you can get ready to hang it on your door or above your mantle or on your wall. And it's beautiful. Ready to go. Well, thank you everyone for attending my demonstration, and check out the end of the video. We'll have some options if you need to buy supplies. We can provide those things. Really hope everyone can come to the shop. We're only open Saturdays from 10 to 4, open to the public, but we would love to see you come in and introduce yourselves, and I hope you had a good time learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.